Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Shocking, I know, that I am back today to do a bracket video for the OWCS 2025 World Finals. We have made it to the final event for the 2025 season of OWCS. Oh boy, I'm sure I don't need to tell you all that I have been not as active with this stage and this season as I was last year. Things happen in life, and I have had a lot of things get in the way, unfortunately. But we are here now, today, to talk about the final tournament for the 2025 season. I'm going to give you my full bracket. I'm going to show it. I'm going to try not to go in depth on every single game just because it is a big bracket. We do have a full 12 teams for this tournament, thankfully. That was the worst part about last year. I know that there was logistical reasons why. Once they went up to 4 regions this year, there was no reason not to do it. And I'm very happy with the format going into this tournament, so that's cool. So we're going to take a look at the bracket. I'm going to give you my thoughts on it. I might be off on some things. I have been grinding the past couple of days trying to get myself back up to speed with everything because I have not been able to watch as much as I would like. Obviously, we have a new patch, so the meta is shifting a little bit. I'm not even going to try to really predict what the meta is going to be because I don't really know what to expect, if I'm being honest with you. So let's take a look at my bracket prediction. You can see it here. Boom. I don't think it's a super shocking bracket in any real position. I think it's pretty much what you would expect it to be. A lot of the teams that you would expect to do well, I think are going to do well. A lot of the teams I expect not to do as well, I expect not to do as well. So let's just start. I'm not going to spend in-depth time in every game, but I at least want to talk about every single team that's in the event. So the games that we know for a fact are happening are these upper bracket round 1 games. We open up with Space Station Gaming taking on Team Peps. That is the 2nd seed coming out of NA against the 3rd seed out of EMEA. Team Peps obviously came in kind of in a shocking way with a big kind of path to victory getting over Gen G after Gen G had the big upset win over Virtus Pro. That helped Team Peps. They also, of course, beat Team Vision. So it was a pretty good kind of underdog Cinderella story for Team Peps to get here. Space Station Gaming, they're the number 2 seed in North America, both in the regular season and, of course, did have to come through the losers bracket after losing to Geek in the upper bracket. But this is an interesting one. I think Space Station's a better team. I think Team Peps is one of, I would say, the 3 weakest teams here. You know, they have a very particular style of play. They play a lot of the hazard. I think there's obviously with bans and map picks and all that kind of stuff, there is a lot of things you can do to kind of play to your strengths that you couldn't before. But I think Space Station has been very impressive. You know, they made some changes to their roster, of course, going into Stage 3, bringing in Hawk. I would say the most notable one, but also, you know, the change to Chronic and bringing in Lep. So they made some pretty notable, somewhat sizable changes. But they've looked very good. I think they should probably win that game with ease. Next, ATVI is the number 2 seed coming out of EMEA. Taking on Geek, who were the 3 seed coming out of North America. Now, Geek, of course, Stage 1, this was Nightmare. They win. Stage 1 is Nightmare, with the big upset win over Space Station Gaming. And then in Stage 2, they become Geek and they win again. And then in Stage 3, they finish in 3rd in North America. So the rest of North America kind of managed to overtake them a bit. I still think they are a solid roster, but they have to go up against ATVI, who did not win Stage 3 EMEA, though they were one of the 2 teams that really was head and shoulders above the rest of EMEA, along with Twisted Minds. And similarly, ATVI very good in the first two stages. They got second in stage 1. They won stage 2. Had a very good performance at the midseason madness, I believe is what it was called, at EWC. So they're a team that looks very good right now. They're on a pretty good trajectory, whereas GK is a little under where I think they have been previously. So I do favor ATVI in this one. And they've looked really good. I know the style of play right now in Europe is a little different. Obviously, like the Symmetra and whatnot kind of is a little unique, but I think the stylistic differences have been very interesting to watch. And I just think ATVI has been shockingly good. So, yeah, I favor them in this one. I think it's a good game. I think this is probably the only game in round 1 that I think could go all the way. The first round's first of 2, so it would be a 3-map series. I guess you could get a 3-map series with some of the other ones too. Like SSG Peps could be a 3-game series, but I don't necessarily think it would be a close one. It would just be like, oh, we get to pick a map that favors us, so we're going to take it. But I think this one's the best game in this first round for sure, where the competition's the closest. Then we have Team CC, the number 2 team coming out of China, taking on T1, the number 3 team coming out of Korea. I think it's a no-brainer T1 victory. Team CC has been consistently the second best team in China. There was conversation, obviously, if you go back to stage 1 in China, if it was going to be Team CC or if it was going to be Rock Esports. And Team CC kind of had the upset victory there. And then they did it again in stage 2. And now here in stage 3, once again, they're the second team out of China. And it's been pretty consistent so far. They've definitely proven themselves to be that number 2 team in China. But you go back to EWC in the midseason madness, they didn't have a good performance there at all. It was pretty bad. Sorry, it was the midseason championship. My apologies. But they were pretty lackluster in that event. They did win against Zocorp Esports, which was the team, I think, out of South America. So that's good, at least, that they were able to beat the South America team. But that's about the extent of what success they saw there. So I think T1 coming out of Korea, yes, T1 has been up and down. They've had chances in the past to be that number 1 team coming out of Korea, and were never able to do it. I think a lot of that is the format in Korea. It's very, very hard to win in Korea. You have to be really good so often because, especially going into this tournament, there was like 4 or 5 brackets from the last regular season game of stage 3 until now. They had like 4 or 5 brackets in Korea. It was crazy. It was insane, the amount of brackets they had to play. So Korea's really, really hard to be consistently good because you have to win all of these tournaments to get where you want to get. I don't love the format in Korea. I know there's some people who do really like it. I think it's too many like weird format choices and too many weird games, where to me it's just like, have a regular season, have a tournament, and that's all you need. You just need one regular season game series and then a tournament, and let's call it. But that's just me. We're not going to talk about format in this one. I think T1 should pretty easily win this game, as much as I think Team CC has had a decent look as a team coming out of China. Yeah, I don't really think they are going to stand up much when they're facing a really, really good T1 squad. Final game in round 1 is Team Falcons, the number 2 seed out of Korea, taking on Varel, the solo representative from the Japan region. The Japanese Pacific region had their little qualifier game. Varel, of course, made it. Varel did have a win over Rock Esports at the midseason championship. I wanted to shout that out because I think that was a very important win and a very important game. It was really like the moment where we saw a good win and a big win on the international stage from a team from Japan. This is the thing about this format, and this is the thing about this tournament in particular, that I really, really, really above all else wanted. And it's the fact that as as much of a growing scene as Japan is, and we all acknowledge it's a growing scene, they have been really, really unlucky with everything before. Because you go back to last season, they had to compete in tournaments against Korea. And there was no world where the team out of Japan was going to do better than the two best teams in Korea. It just was not going to happen. So I'm glad this time around they do have a spot. I think that they should be paired with China. Personally, I think you put China, Japan, and Pacific as the Asia region, because I don't think there's enough depth in any of those three regions to justify giving each of them an individual spot. And obviously there's some logistical challenges that are poised with China because of the way the game operates there. It's not a Blizzard operation, it's a Blizzard partner with NetEase. That's a whole thing. The point is, I'm very happy Varial gets to compete in this tournament. I'm glad they get a chance here. The problem is they have to go up against one of the two best teams in the world in round one, and they are going to get absolutely curb stomped. 2-0, maybe the shortest game that's ever happened in Pro Overwatch. That's the unfortunate reality of where they ended up here. And that stinks. But that's the way it is for them here in that round one upper bracket. So, moving into the second round here, sticking with the upper bracket, this would set up Crazy Raccoon taking on Space Station Gaming. Crazy Raccoon, the number one team coming out of Korea. I do not think they will have much of a challenge taking down Space Station Gaming. I think Crazy Raccoon, as you can see from my bracket, should be one of the favorites to win this whole tournament. They've been consistently good all year. Since the OWCS started, they've won the most international tournaments of any team. And they're going to be in the running to do it again this year. And I think we're going to see their best performances, especially when they're playing against the teams that just don't have the same caliber of play as like a Team Falcons. Yeah, I just think that's kind of where a lot of that comes down. Next is Weibo Gaming taking on ATVI. Weibo Gaming, the number one team coming out of China, taking on a very good 2 seed out of EMEA. This to me is, in this round in particular, there's 2 games in this round, this one and the next one, that I think are very close. This to me is the toughest one to call because Weibo obviously are really, 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 really good at dive. It is the thing that they are the most known for. They have begun to diversify their compositions a bit more. They can play a number of things that they couldn't really play in the past, which is really, really good. But they're a team that has a lot of kind of external expectation placed on them. There's a lot of people saying, like, if Weibo doesn't win this tournament, they will probably never get that tournament win that they have wanted. And if it's a dive meta, which I don't know what to expect from the meta yet, if it is a dive meta, they certainly have a chance. If they can get away playing a lot of Winston, if they can literally just like ride the Gushui Winston the entire time, then they definitely have a chance to win this whole tournament. But I just really think when you look at the international results so far this year, ATVI has had really good performances internationally. Weibo, they had a good Champions Clash when they were playing, the tournament in China, but EWC was bad for them. They had a bad EWC, and they did not look particularly good. They had a good game against Team Falcons, but they got bounced by a Virtus Pro team that not a lot of people put faith into getting out of that group. And that's really where Weibo kind of worries me. I think there is a benefit to, hopefully on their part, not having played against ATVI a lot, not having the same kind of recognition, because once you know how to play against Weibo, I think you can do well against them. They are capable of winning this tournament. They are that good, but they are a very turbulent team, and I don't really know what version of them we're going to get, and it's hard to get a read on them in a China region that is not the strongest. So I like Weibo. I really would love to feel more confident in Weibo as a team. I would not be surprised if they won this game at all. I think this is the closest game here in this round. But I'm going to give the edge to ATVI just because I have seen them do a lot more recently. I think they have some very, very, very high levels of performance. Now, the thing about this game that is very interesting and that I am keeping my eye on is, of course, the fact that Landon is on this team, and Landon basically has the entire country of China looking to fight him because he basically said Weibo was washed. So Weibo kind of has to win this game to shut down the Landon narrative. If ATVI wins, Landon will, I think, become the new leader of China. I don't know if that is real or not, but I think he'll probably become the new leader of China because that's basically what he said was going to happen. So a lot of stakes in this game that could go either way. But yeah, I do think ATVI just looks really good, and I think they take this one down. Next is Twisted Minds, the number 1 seed out of EMEA, taking on T1. This one also very, very close. I feel really confident that Twisted Minds is coming into this tournament as one of the kind of better teams here. I think when you look at the overall level of play they've put up recently, they've been looking very good against OWCS in particular recently, which is good for them, which is ironic considering I pick OWCS over them later in the bracket, but don't worry about it. I think it is a very, very good chance that Twisted Minds does put up a really good performance in this tournament and it does come out on top here. But I am going to give the edge to T1. T1's been a little disappointing in these international tournaments, but overall they have looked very good. If you go back to the mid-season championship, they got 4th. They lost in the 3rd place match, but I think at that point, my maybe this is cope, but I do think a big part of that was at that point in time you've lost. There was money on the line, of course, but like when you're there in Saudi Arabia playing against the Saudi Arabian fans, against the Saudi Arabian team, I do think there is a bit of a kind of a buff there. And yeah, Twisted Minds won that game in particular when they played there, but the circumstances were different. It was not the same exact thing, so I don't feel like guaranteed, absolutely 100% chance this is going to go the way of T1, but I think there's a bit more experience under the belt now. I think they'll probably be fine in this one, but I think it'll be a good game for sure. I like what we've seen out of Twisted Minds this stage. Obviously, I think getting KSA back for this team was huge. And we're seeing how good they are. You know, like Quartz is still that guy. And we're seeing a lot of really good stuff out of Yubi. So this is a very interesting team to watch. I think they're going to be the most dangerous team outside of Korea, personally, which is once again weird that I picked them to lose to ATVI, but don't worry about it. But I'm going to pick T1 for this one just because I'm really huffing on the Korea copium, so that's what it is. And then finally here we have Team Liquid, the number 1 seed out of North America, taking on Team Falcons. I'll talk more about Liquid later because I think Liquid has some much better chances to win later games, but they really did not luck out with this draw, having to play Team Falcons, who are going to be in the grand finals almost definitely. And Team Liquid has looked very good. They obviously have improved steadily over this course of the year, and in Stage 3 they were the best team in North America by far. A lot of Wrecking Ball play that they did to get there, and I don't think Wrecking Ball is in the best place right now, which is a cause for concern for them. But even if Wrecking Ball was really good, I still would take Team Falcons because it's Team Falcons. So that's up for the upper bracket semifinals. Crazy Raccoon versus ATVI, T1 versus Team Falcons. I'm going to take the two favorites for this tournament, which is Crazy Raccoon and Team Falcons. I would imagine everyone is going to put them as the odds-on favorites. They have competed in pretty much every upper bracket final and the grand final all year. At least one of them has. And I think that this is going to be very similar to what we've had in the past. I don't really have a lot of reason to think otherwise. And just to obviously jump to the upper bracket final, I'm going to take Team Falcons, at least for this top one. Team Falcons tends to win the first one. In general, whoever wins the first one doesn't always win the second one, but when Team Falcons won this tournament last year, they did win the upper bracket final. I think they, in general, tend to win the first game. I think Crazy Raccoon is not necessarily a team that gets their best immediately. I kind of think they are someone that benefits a bit from extra time for some of these matchups. So I like them a lot. I do think they're a very good team, obviously, but I really like what we've gotten so far out of this matchup historically, and just really for the sake of doing it, I'm going to say that Falcons wins the first matchup and knocks Crazy Raccoon down to the lower bracket, which we can, of course, now move on to. All right, now, as we move to the lower bracket, we have Team Liquid taking on Team Peps. I think this is a pretty easy Team Liquid win. I think, like I said before, Team Peps, very good team for what they were able to do to get here, but I still think they are definitely in the lower grouping here of teams in terms of their overall expectation. I just don't think they look to be among the really good kind of teams we have in EMEA. They were not the third best team in EMEA, in my opinion, in Stage 3. Obviously, Virtus.pro disappointed in the end, but I think Liquid should be able to win this game. This is a very good Liquid team. I've really enjoyed them this stage. I hope they go on a run. I don't have them going on a huge run, unfortunately. But I do like what they've done, and I think they should be able to win this game pretty easily and move on to that second lower bracket round. They'd face the winner of Twisted Minds versus Geek. And boy, did Geek get maybe the worst draw of any team in this thing. Because if they're able to beat Alcatia in round 1, it's not terrible, because then they would play Weibo, and if they lost to Weibo, they get Team CC. So I think they have the chance to win at least one game. But if it goes the way I do, they got really unlucky having to immediately play the two best teams in the West that are not from North America. Maybe the two best teams in the West overall. We don't know yet. We haven't seen them play yet. But I think it's a pretty tough draw for them. Obviously, we've seen this team do really well. This is a team that beat Crazy Raccoon in the first tournament of the year. So we know they can go big and get huge results. But Twisted Minds has been pretty consistent. They look really good. I think they're the best team in the West right now, personally. Which, once again, is crazy. But don't worry about it. I like what they've done a lot. I think they've put a lot of good together, and I think they are able to take down a Geek team that is not playing the best Overwatch in the world right now. And I think we're going to see a bit of an upset, maybe for some. But it's definitely, I think, a pretty clear favored Twisted Minds game here. Then we'd get a game between Weibo and Team CC, which, I mean, they've played 100 times. Not really. They've played several times, obviously. Weibo Gaming is still the best team in China pretty easily. Team CC's definitely gotten better. I know they've had I think the most recent game they had was kind of close. How much of that was Weibo just kind of coasting a bit because they were already in the tournament, and they were like, yeah, it's fine. We'll do what we need to do. I think they're good. I think it's going to be an easy win for Weibo here. I think they should be favored to beat a not incredible Team CC roster that they've had success against already this year. So I'll take Weibo there. And then you have Space Station taking on Varel. Space Station, I think, got literally the luckiest and easiest draw of the NA teams. Yes, they do have to play Crazy Raccoon, assuming they win in round 1. But then they get to play Varel, who might be the weakest team in the tournament. I think it's between them and Team CC. And Space Station, I think, might end up looking deceptively good because of some of the games they have. So, good for them. I think they should win that one with relative ease. Moving on to the next round, Team Liquid taking on Twisted Minds. I hope Team Liquid wins, personally, because I want NA to do well. And I really like this team. I like a lot of the guys on this team. And, Infected is the GOAT of North America. But I have to go with Twisted Minds right now. I think they're playing the best Overwatch in the West right now. But I still have them losing ATVI because I like to contradict myself. But I do think they're good. And I think that's just what it comes down to. They've had a way more success on the big stage than Team Liquid has had. And I think that plays a factor in as well. And overall, I just think Twisted Minds is one of the teams that really has impressed me so far this year. They struggled early, obviously. Stage 1, they did not look as good as I thought they would. But basically, since KSA rejoined the team, they've been untouchable outside of games against ATVI. So, yeah. I'm sorry, Team Liquid. I just can't pick you here. Then I have Weibo versus Space Station. This one's really tough. I think this is a game that Weibo probably should win, but I'm trying not to buy the Weibo stock too heavily because as good as they are, I do think that Space Station's playing well. I also think looking at this is the game that I think I spent the most time trying to really decide who I thought would win, because Weibo obviously plays a dive style that they will force pretty much whenever they can in a way that other teams simply put do not do, and it is a very unique style. Hawk has experience against these guys, so that at least is a benefit you have. You know how to play against Gushua. You've done it before. Now, they did lose the last time they played against each other. If I remember correctly, it was that Atlanta Reign game against the Hangzhou Spark. So not a great look on that front. But if you look at their match against Geekay and even their game against Team Liquid at the end of Stage 3, there was a lot of dive being played by the NA teams, and Space Station played a lot of D.Va into the Winston that was getting a lot of play. They would play Zarya successfully into Winston as well. So I think they play a style that I do think is good against what Weibo's strengths are. And typically, I actually think what Weibo does well is plays dive against opponents who aren't also playing dive, or at least aren't matching what they do. Because I think really in a true Winston dive meta or Winston dive, mirror, there's very few teams that can beat Weibo. But something about what we've seen out of SSG, they've been very consistent, they've been very solid, and I think that they have enough experience playing against dive comps and beating it with what they like to play. D.Va into Winston is a very favorable matchup, and I think they will really benefit from what Hawk has brought to the table, and I think they're going to pull this one out. I need one of the NA teams to do something, and so I'm going to go with Space Station here, getting a pretty good win over a solid Weibo Gaming team, moving into the lower bracket quarterfinals. This is where the ATVI Twisted Minds game would happen. And look, I've said it already before, and I'm going to say it again. I don't really have great logic for why I really think ATVI is the better team when you look recently and Twisted Minds has been playing better. I just think on the LAN stage, on the international LAN stage, we have seen better performances out of Alcad than we have out of Twisted Minds. And so I do feel really strongly that ATVI is in a good position, and I feel like they are going to come through in a way in this game. I think it's going to be close. I think it's probably going to be, a 3-2 series that goes the distance. But I do really like what ATVI has done. This is maybe the best rivalry in the West between these two teams, and I do hope we get a good banger of a series between them here at the World Finals, but I am ultimately going to go with ATVI for that one. Then you have T1 versus Space Station. As much as I would love to see Space Station win this one, I still like T1. I haven't talked a lot about T1 in this video because they are just kind of a really good team with a lot of really good players on it that has had its ups and downs. I think they've dipped a bit from where they were really doing really well early. Like Proud hasn't looked great at times, kind of late in the year. But Donghawk is a very flexible tank that gives you a lot of options. Skewed and Vigilante, really, really good support duo. They don't have a great double flex look, which is a little bit of a concern for them. They don't have like a really good Lucio, but you can get away with playing Brig and get away with playing, a Brig flex look. So I do like this team a lot. I think they've really looked good this year. I do think ATVI could win this. They've been very good this year. They've looked really good consistently this year. And I think there's no real guarantee that T1 is kind of going to be the team to take down Space Station and really move into this lower bracket semis and win convincingly against Alcad. But I think SSG just does not have the pressure to be able to take down T1. So I do feel pretty strongly about T1 taking this one. And then going up against ATVI, it is going to come down to kind of the matchups. It's going to come out, what is the real style differences in this one that determine the game. I think the thing for me about T1 is, as inconsistent as they are, they still have been consistently the third best team in Korea, which is the best region right now in terms of just overall level of competition top to bottom. Korea is the strongest region. Yeah, the 8th best team in Korea probably doesn't win every single game they play against a Team Liquid or an ATVI or, Twisted Minds, whoever. But T1 is pretty consistently the third best team, at times the second best, even at times the best team in Korea. And so I do think that they have at least enough firepower at their disposal that I think they should be able to be that third best team in this tournament too. I do think this is going to be, personally, I think the top 4 is going to be probably, just based on the way the bracket goes, I think it's most likely going to be the top 2 Korean teams, and then either 2 EMEA teams or an EMEA and Korean team, or maybe Team Liquid or Space Station if this Space Station's bracket is as such, and they could make it. But I 100% think there's going to be an EMEA team in the top 4. I am willing to make that my big prediction here, is that there will be an EMEA team in the top 4. There might be 3 Korean teams in the top 4. I feel more confident that there will be at least one EMEA team in the top 4 than I am that there will be 3 Korean teams in the top 4. Which, that seems like a really easy prediction. That, I think that there are multiple paths for us to get potentially ATVI and Twisted Minds as well. I think it's more likely there's 2 EMEA teams in the top 4 than there is a Korean and NA team as the 3 and 4. Like, that's how pretty confident I am that we're going to get at least one EMEA team in the top 4. But I digress. This would set up a Crazy Raccoon T1 game in the lower bracket final. I think Crazy Raccoon wins that game. I don't know if they've lost to T1 this year. I think they have maybe once, but it's been pretty consistent. And then in the grand final, I'm picking Crazy Raccoon. I think, generally speaking, outside of the Malga meta from last year's World Finals, typically Crazy Raccoon is better in that second game they play. I think the 2 wins that Team Falcons have in tournaments so far this year in the OWCS was last year at the World Finals, where they were able to, ride the Malga meta all the way to the end, just in a dominant fashion that there was really just Crazy Raccoon could not match them. And then it was the mid-season championship where Crazy Raccoon got eliminated before they played. So I think generally speaking, Crazy Raccoon does win more games against Falcons, but a lot of time in these tournaments, Falcons gets that earlier win. I think the lower bracket is nice for Crazy Raccoon. They are really good out of the lower bracket. And I think they've shown pretty consistently the ability to perform. I still have some concerns about Falcons roster with... I was really into this Merritt signing when it happened, and I still do like it. Stalker's really good. Not playing him is kind of a choice. So we'll see, but look, I'm gonna be honest. Like, if there's anything you need to know about me, I'm never picking Team Falcons to win a tournament. So I'm always gonna pick Crazy Raccoon until there's literally basically until I can't. Until they don't make a tournament, I will probably always pick Crazy Raccoon. So there you go. So that's my bracket. I know I rambled for a lot in this video. That's why I didn't want to spend a ton of time on every game, but I ended up spending a lot of time on a lot of them. If you watched this whole thing, thank you. I know I have not been as active. I talked about that earlier in the video, but I'll probably talk more about that later this year. I want to do a video kind of at the end of the year, looking back on this year, and some of my thoughts on Overwatch esports and Overwatch and whatnot, but I at least wanted to make sure to get this video out for you. And I'm sure, almost 100% positive, you'll be getting another video this week. So don't worry. There will be 2 videos this week because Vendetta's coming. And I'm very excited. But there you go. This is my bracket. Let me know your thoughts on it in the comments down below. Do you agree with me on anything? Is there anything you wildly disagree with me on? I would love to hear from you. Those are some of my favorite things to kind of engage in discussion with, is people's thoughts on brackets and all that stuff. So I'd love to hear from you in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video and want more like it in the future, consider liking and subscribing. I can't guarantee Overwatch esports content is going to be the staple of this channel going forward, but I can say that I am not leaving. And I will make the content when the content speaks to me. Which sounds crazy. Maybe because it is. Anyway, thank you all once again. Hope you are all doing well. Hope you're all staying safe and staying healthy. And until next time, bye-bye.